Sophie's fingers trembled as she spread her portfolio across Ryan's mahogany desk, each piece carefully arranged to catch the afternoon light streaming through his corner office windows. The Sterling Creative Agency internship application deadline was tomorrow, and she'd spent 3 sleepless nights perfecting her presentation. "This is it," she whispered, stepping back to let Ryan examine her work. "My shot at Sterling." Ryan's designer suit caught the light as he leaned forward, his expression thoughtful and encouraging. Everything about his office screamed success: the awards lining his bookshelf, the client photos with celebrities, the view of downtown's creative district. Sophie had always felt lucky that someone so established believed in her. "These are good, Soph," Ryan said, picking up her logo redesign for a local coffee chain. His voice carried that warm tone that made her heart flutter. "Really good, but—" He tilted his head, studying the design with practiced eyes. "Don't you think it's a bit amateur? The color palette is bold, maybe too bold for a conservative client base." Sophie's confidence wavered. "I researched their demographics. Young professionals prefer— Trust me, baby. I've been in this industry since college." Ryan's smile softened the interruption. "Maybe tone down the ambition a little? Sterling Creative handles Fortune 500 accounts. They need to see you can follow established design principles before you start revolutionizing them." She nodded, making mental notes. Ryan always knew best about these things. His family's agency, Williams Associates, had been established for 20 years. She was just a student. "And this campaign concept," Ryan continued, lifting her social media strategy mock-up. "It's creative, but perhaps too experimental. You want to show them you're reliable first, innovative second." Each critique felt like gentle guidance, wrapped in concern for her success. Sophie gathered her pieces, already mentally revising half her portfolio. "You're right. I'll adjust the color schemes tonight and simplify the concepts." "That's my girl," Ryan murmured, pulling her close. "I just want you to succeed. Sterling's competitive. You need every advantage." 3 weeks later, Sophie's stomach dropped as she spotted her original coffee chain logo design, the bold, amateur version, displayed prominently on Ryan's laptop screen. She was bringing him lunch at his office when she glimpsed the familiar color palette. "Ryan?" Her voice came out smaller than intended. "Is that my design?" He glanced at the screen, then back at her with that easy smile. "Oh, this? Dad asked me to show him some student work examples. I grabbed a few of your pieces to demonstrate emerging talent trends." Relief flooded through her. Of course, Ryan's father often consulted him about industry developments. Did he like it? "He was impressed by the commercial viability," Ryan said, closing the laptop. "Said whoever created it understood market psychology. I told him you had natural instincts but needed refinement." Sophie beamed. William Williams Sr. was a legend in advertising. His approval, even filtered through Ryan, felt like validation. Over the following months, the pattern crystallized with surgical precision. In private, Ryan would gently redirect Sophie's boldest ideas. "This concept is interesting, but clients prefer proven approaches." In public, he'd praise her promising talent while positioning himself as her mentor and guide. When Sophie suggested applying for a junior position at a trendy startup agency, Ryan's brow furrowed with concern. "Those places exploit young talent, Soph. You're not ready for that kind of pressure. Let me help you build your skills first." When her design professor recommended her for a prestigious student exhibition, Ryan shook his head sympathetically. "Professor Martinez doesn't understand commercial realities. Exhibition work is different from client work. You don't want to embarrass yourself." Each protective gesture felt like love. Each limitation felt like wisdom. The breaking point arrived at Ryan's company holiday party, a glittering affair in a downtown penthouse. Sophie wore her best dress, a simple black number that had cost her 2 weeks of part-time wages, and tried to network like Ryan had taught her. Speak when spoken to, listen more than you talk, and don't oversell yourself. She was heading to the bathroom when she heard Ryan's voice from the balcony, crystal clear through the sliding glass door. "Sophie's sweet, honestly, but she's not cut out for this industry." Ryan's laugh carried the casual cruelty of absolute certainty. I'm basically carrying her career dreams at this point. She has these wild ideas, completely impractical, and I have to talk her down from them constantly. That's rough, man, replied James from accounts. Why stay with her? She's loyal, and loyalty's rare. Plus, she does have decent instincts, Wu. Hen properly directed. I've been refining some of her concepts for client presentations. Amazing what you can accomplish when you know how to guide raw talent. Sophie's hand found the wall for support. Through the glass, she watched Ryan gesture expansively, holding court among his colleagues. Her Ryan who praised her promising potential while systematically dismantling her confidence. The trick is making them think they're not ready for opportunities while you extract value from their work, Ryan continued. She created this brilliant rebranding concept for coffee shops. Completely overambitious execution, but the core idea was solid. I presented a refined version to the Harrison Group last month. They loved it. The Harrison Group. Sophie remembered that client meeting, remembered Ryan coming home excited about landing a major account. He'd celebrated by taking her to dinner, toasting our success, while she wondered what she'd contributed. Now she knew. The confrontation happened the next morning in Ryan's apartment, surrounded by the luxury her part-time job had helped fund. Sophie had printed out the Harrison Group presentation from Ryan's computer, her coffee shop concept, refined and polished, credited entirely to him. We need to talk, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Ryan looked up from his breakfast, taking in her serious expression and the papers in her hand. His face shifted through surprise, calculation, and finally settling on concerned confusion. What's wrong, baby? Sophie placed the presentation on the table between them. This is my work, Ryan. My concept, my research, my design principles. You presented it as your own. For a moment, something flickered behind Ryan's eyes, something cold and assessing. Then his expression melted into hurt disappointment. Sophie, I can't believe you'd think so little of me. His voice carried wounded bewilderment. Yes, I used your initial idea as inspiration, but look at what I had to do to make it client-ready. The strategy refinement, the market positioning, the budget considerations, that's all professional-level work you couldn't have handled yet. He stood, moving closer with the confidence of someone accustomed to having his reality accepted without question. You should be grateful I saw potential in your amateur work. Without me refining and presenting it properly, no one would look twice at your stuff. The Harrison Group isn't going to hire a student with no industry experience. His smile was gentle, patronizing. You'd be nothing without me guiding you, Soph. That's not an insult. That's just reality. Sophie stared at him, seeing clearly for the first time in 2 years. Not the successful mentor who believed in her potential, but the man who had systematically convinced her she had none. You're right, she said quietly. I would be nothing without you. Ryan's smile widened, victory assured. But I'd rather be nothing on my own than everything through you. She walked out with just her purse and portfolio, leaving behind the apartment she'd helped furnish, the life she'd helped fund, and the man who'd spent 2 years teaching her to think small. Sophie's childhood bedroom felt like a museum of abandoned dreams. Her high school art awards gathered dust on shelves alongside participation trophies and graduation photos where she'd actually smiled. The single bed we see with its faded floral comforter barely contained her 22-year-old frame. At night, she stared at the ceiling and calculated her savings, $347, $223. Ryan's networking events and expensive lifestyle had consumed everything else. Her portfolio lay scattered across the desk, incomplete, with gaping holes where her best work had been. The pieces Ryan had borrowed were gone forever, existing now only in his presentations and client files. What remained felt amateurish, student work that screamed inexperience. Another rejection, her mother announced, holding up an envelope from Morrison Design Studios. Maybe you should consider teaching art. Nice, stable career. Sophie's father looked up from his newspaper, expression carefully neutral. Your old manager at the coffee shop said you could come back full-time. benefits, steady paycheck. They meant well. They'd watched their daughter spend 2 years chasing dreams with an impressive boyfriend, only to return home broken and broke. Of course they wanted safety for her. I need to keep trying, Sophie said, though the words felt hollow. The pattern had become routine. Mornings spent customizing cover letters, afternoons waiting for responses that never came. Each rejection email confirmed Ryan's assessment. Thank you for your interest, but we're looking for candidates with more relevant experience. Your portfolio shows promise, but we need someone who can hit the ground running. By her third week home, desperation drove her to accept a position at Artisan Supplies, a cramped art store in the strip mall near campus. The manager, Mrs. Patterson, was kind but blunt. Minimum wage, no benefits, but you know about art stuff and our last girl quit without notice. Sophie spent her days restocking paintbrushes and explaining the difference between watercolor and acrylic to customers who seemed more knowledgeable than her about everything else. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like a countdown timer, marking the passage of another day further from her ambitions. "Excuse me," a voice said during her fourth week. "I'm looking for someone who might do freelance design work." Sophie looked up from organizing colored pencils to see a man in his early 30s, Hispanic features, wearing jeans and a button-down that suggested business casual rather than corporate polish. His expression was direct, but not unkind. "I'm Marcus Rivera," he continued. "I run a small marketing consultancy, and frankly, I need better promotional materials than what I've been creating in PowerPoint." Something in his straightforward manner made Sophie straighten. "What kind of materials?" "Logo, business cards, maybe a simple website mock-up. Nothing fancy but professional. I've been quoted ridiculous prices by agencies for basic work." Marcus pulled out a business card that confirmed Sophie's suspicions. Clearly homemade, decent concept, but amateur execution. "I could help with that," Sophie heard herself saying. "What's your budget?" They negotiated over the paint display. Marcus wanted clean, professional design that communicated trustworthiness without corporate coldness. His consultancy helped small businesses with marketing strategy, so he needed materials that looked established but approachable. $500 for the complete package, Marcus offered. Logo, business, cards, basic website design, and maybe some letterhead templates. Sophie's heart jumped. $500 was more than she made in 2 weeks at the store. But more than the money, she felt something she'd forgotten. Genuine interest in a creative challenge. "I'll need a week," she said. That night, Sophie worked until 3 a.m., surrounded by coffee cups and sketch paper. For the first time in months, she wasn't second-guessing every decision or wondering what Ryan would think. Marcus had been clear about his needs, professional but warm, trustworthy but innovative. She designed a logo that balanced modern typography with a subtle arrow suggesting forward movement. The color palette was sophisticated, deep blue with silver accents, but warm enough to feel approachable. The business cards incorporated negative space cleverly, making them memorable without being gimmicky. The website mock-up showcased Marcus's services with clean layouts and intuitive navigation. Sophie researched his competitors, studying their approaches and identifying ways to differentiate Marcus's brand through design choices that reflected his straightforward communication style. When she presented the package the following week, Marcus studied each piece carefully. Sophie found herself explaining her design choices, the psychology behind the color choices, the typography decisions, the way the logo would reproduce at different sizes. "This is exactly what I needed," Marcus said finally. "Better than what I needed, actually. You understood my business better than I explained it." He wrote the check immediately, but then hesitated. "Can I ask what you're doing working retail? This is professional quality work." Sophie felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I'm just starting out, building experience." "What kind of experience are you looking for?" The question caught her off guard. "I want to work at an agency, learn the business side of design, understand client relationships, develop strategy skills." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "I'm expanding my consultancy, Just hired 2 junior strategists, and I need someone who can handle design work in-house rather than outsourcing everything. Entry-level position, but with growth potential based on performance. Sophie's pulse quickened. What would that involve? Client presentations, campaign development, brand strategy support. You'd learn project management, client relations, budget development, all the business skills agencies require. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Starting salary isn't huge, but there's profit sharing if we hit targets, and you'd get hands-on experience with real campaigns. The offer hung between them. Sophie thought about her safe retail job, about her parents' suggestions to pursue teaching, about Ryan's voice echoing in her memory. You'd be nothing without me guiding you. When would you need an answer? Take the weekend. But Sophie? Marcus's expression was serious. I'm not looking for someone who needs their hand held. I need someone who can think strategically, handle difficult clients, and grow into increasing responsibility. The work is demanding, and some of our clients can be challenging. That weekend, Sophie walked through her old campus, past the design building where she'd spent 4 years learning theory and technique. Students hurried past with portfolios under their arms, heading toward futures that seemed impossibly bright and certain. At the coffee shop where she'd worked part-time, she ordered her usual and sat in the corner booth where she used to study. The familiar sounds, espresso machine hissing, conversations blending, reminded her of who she'd been before Ryan. Ambitious, curious, unafraid of challenges. Her PH. One buzzed with a text from her mother. That teaching position in the elementary school district is still open. Good benefits. Summers off. Sophie stared at the message, then at her reflection in the coffee shop window. She could choose safety. Return to predictable routines, steady paychecks, and the comfortable knowledge that she'd never fail spectacularly because she'd never risk anything significant. Or she could step back into the industry that had broken her confidence, working for a man she barely knew, in a field where she'd already been told she wasn't good enough. She thought about Marcus's straightforward manner, his willingness to pay fairly for good work, his assumption that she was capable of growth and increasing responsibility. Sophie typed her response to Marcus. I accept your offer. When do I start? The reply came within minutes. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Welcome to Apex Creative. Walking home through the gathering dusk, Sophie felt something she hadn't experienced in months. The anticipation of moving forward rather than the weight of looking back. The client wants to see 3 different campaign concepts by Thursday, Marcus announced, dropping a thick folder on my desk with the casualness of someone delivering coffee rather than my potential career death sentence. Vitality Wellness, local brand, tiny budget, impossible expectations. I opened the folder to find a company profile that made my stomach clench. Vitality Wellness, annual marketing budget of $12,000, expecting results comparable to brands spending 6 figures. Their previous agency had dropped them after 2 frustrating months. Why are we taking this on? Asked Jessica from account management, peering over my shoulder with barely concealed horror. Because Sophie volunteered, Marcus replied, his expression neutral but his eyes watching my reaction carefully. The conference room fell silent. 6 pairs of eyes turned toward me, some curious, others pitying. David from strategy actually winced. The margins are terrible, Jessica continued. 3 other agencies have walked away from them. The owner has unrealistic expectations about viral marketing, and she changes her mind every week about brand direction. Perfect. My first real test at Apex Creative would be the client everyone else considered radioactive. When do I meet with them? I asked. Marcus's slight smile suggested approval. Tomorrow morning. Their owner, Patricia Hayes, is intense. That evening, I spread Vitality Wellness materials across my kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. Their current branding screamed amateur hour, clashing fonts, stock photos that looked like healthcare advertisements, messaging that tried to appeal to everyone, and therefore appealed to no one. Patricia Hayes had built her wellness brand around supplements and lifestyle coaching, targeting women aged 25 to 45. Her Instagram showed sporadic posts with decent engagement but no coherent strategy. Her website looked like it hadn't been updated since 2019. Instead of diving into creative concepts, I spent the night researching. I analyzed competitor brands, studied demographic data, and created surveys to understand what potential customers actually wanted from wellness brands. By morning, I had a hypothesis. Vitality's audience felt alienated by mainstream wellness marketing that promoted expensive lifestyle changes and unrealistic body standards. Patricia Hayes arrived at our offices wearing athleisure that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her energy filling the conference room like barely contained lightning. She spoke rapidly, gesturing with manicured hands, outlining her vision for Vitality to become the next big wellness revolution. "I need something that goes viral," she declared. "Something that gets millions of views and makes everyone talking about Vitality. My budget is limited, but I know the right idea can overcome any financial constraints." I watched Marcus's face remain diplomatically neutral while internally calculating the impossibility of her expectations. "Patricia," I said, spreading my research across the table, "before we discuss creative concepts, can you tell me about your most successful content? What posts got the highest engagement?" She brightened, pulling out her phone. "This one got 300 likes. It was about affordable meal prep ideas for busy moms." "And this one?" I pointed to another post with high engagement. "Workout routines you can do at home with no equipment." People loved that it was accessible. I nodded, pieces clicking together. Your audience doesn't want aspirational content. They want practical solutions. They're tired of wellness brands that make them feel inadequate. Patricia's expression shifted from enthusiastic to curious. "What are you suggesting?" "A campaign called Real Wellness, Real Life. Instead of polished studio photography, we use authentic customer stories. Instead of expensive lifestyle changes, we focus on small, achievable improvements. Instead of trying to go viral, we build genuine community engagement." Marcus leaned forward slightly, a subtle sign of interest I'd learned to recognize. "The budget constraints actually work in our favor," I continued. "We'll use guerrilla marketing tactics, social media challenges that cost nothing but generate user content, partnerships with local gyms and health food stores, community events that build brand loyalty rather than just awareness." Patricia frowned. "That doesn't sound big enough. I want national attention." "Patricia, your current social media reach is about 2,000 people. Building national attention requires foundational audience engagement first. Let's prove the concept locally, then scale based on what works." The next hour tested every diplomatic skill I'd developed in retail. Patricia wanted promises of viral success. I offered measurable growth metrics. She wanted flashy campaigns. I proposed sustainable strategies that matched her budget reality. "I need to think about it," she said finally, gathering her materials with obvious disappointment. After she left, Jessica shook her head sympathetically. "Don't take it personally when she goes with another agency. Clients like her always want magic solutions." That afternoon, I called Patricia directly. "I have a proposal. Let me create a mini campaign for free, just a week of social media content following my strategy. If it doesn't show measurable improvement in engagement and inquiries, you pay nothing and walk away." The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if she'd hung up. "1 week?" she said finally. 7 days. If the results don't speak for themselves, I'll personally help you find an agency that better matches your vision." Marcus raised an eyebrow when I explained my proposal. "You're working for free again?" "I'm investing in proof of concept," I corrected. "Sometimes you have to risk short-term losses for long-term credibility." The week that followed pushed every skill I'd developed. I interviewed 5 of Patricia's existing customers, discovering their stories. A single mother who'd lost 30 pounds using Vitality's meal plans, a teacher who'd overcome chronic fatigue through Patricia's coaching, a college student who'd built confidence through Vitality's community support. Instead of polished testimonials, I created authentic content showcasing these real transformations. Short video interviews where customers spoke honestly about their struggles and victories. Before and after photos that focused on energy levels and confidence rather than dramatic physical changes. The community partnership strategy proved equally effective. I connected Patricia with 3 local businesses, a yoga studio, a farmer's market, and a running group, creating cross-promotional content that expanded her reach organically. By day 4, Patricia was calling with excitement. Engagement is up 400%. I've gotten more inquiries this week than in the previous month. By day 7, her social media followers had increased by 30%, and she'd received 12 new coaching inquiries, more than her previous quarterly average. How did you know this would work? Patricia asked during our follow-up meeting, signing a 6-month contract with genuine enthusiasm. Because I listened to what your customers actually wanted instead of what you thought they should want, I replied. Marcus scheduled a debrief session the following week, examining every aspect of the Vitality campaign. He had me present my strategy to the entire team, walking through research methods, creative development, and performance metrics. This is how we approach every client, he announced. Research first, creative second, results focused throughout. David from Strategy nodded approvingly. The local partnership angle is brilliant, sustainable, and cost-effective. Jessica, who'd initially written off the account, studied my performance reports with new respect. You turned an impossible client into a case study. Over the following months, Marcus rotated me through different departments. I spent mornings with account management, learning client relationship dynamics and project timeline management. Afternoons with strategy, understanding market analysis and competitive positioning. Evenings in creative sessions, seeing how concept development flowed from research insights. Each rotation revealed gaps in my knowledge while building comprehensive understanding of agency operations. I learned that great creative work meant nothing without solid strategy foundation, that client relationships required constant nurturing and clear communication, that successful campaigns balanced creativity with measurable business results. The Vitality Wellness campaign became my calling card, but more importantly, it became my education in what separated amateur enthusiasm from professional competence. Patricia's success attracted 2 similar clients, small businesses with limited budgets, but realistic expectations about growth-focused marketing. By month 6 at Apex Creative, I'd built a small portfolio of modest successes. Nothing viral, nothing revolutionary, but consistent results that proved I understood the fundamentals of strategic marketing. You're ready for bigger challenges, Marcus said during my performance review, sliding a folder across his desk. This client specifically requested you based on your reputation for turning difficult accounts into success stories. I opened the folder to find a familiar logo, Williams Associates. Ryan's family agency wanted to hire Apex Creative for a major rebranding project. My hands steady despite my racing pulse, I looked up at Marcus with professional composure. When do we start? Sophie Chen is working where? Ryan's voice cracked across his father's corner office like a whip against marble. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, downtown's creative district sprawled below, the same view that had once intimidated me into thinking small. William Williams Sr. looked up from his newspaper with the mild irritation of someone interrupted during sacred morning ritual. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his Armani suit pressed to razor precision, his desk arranged with the obsessive order of a man who controlled every detail within reach. Apex Creative, he repeated calmly. They've been stealing our clients for 6 months. Marcus Rivera runs a tight operation, and apparently his junior creative director has developed quite a reputation for turning around difficult accounts. Ryan's face flushed crimson against his pale blue Oxford shirt. Junior creative director? Sophie? That's impossible. She's barely qualified to answer phones. The Vitality Wellness campaign generated a 400% engagement increase with a budget smaller than our coffee expenses, Williams Sr. continued, his tone carrying the weight of research and grudging respect. 3 of our former clients have mentioned her work specifically when explaining why they switched agencies. I watched this conversation unfold from across the street, tucked into the window booth of Grind Coffee, my laptop open to the quarterly report I was reviewing for Marcus. The Williams Associates building rose 40 stories above me, all glass and steel and old money confidence. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Williams Sr. wants to meet Tuesday. Potential rebranding project. 7 figures. 7 figures. Enough to establish Apex Creative as a major player rather than a scrappy upstart. Enough to prove that David had been wrong 6 months ago, when he'd quietly predicted I'd be gone within a year. The meeting invitation felt like destiny wrapped in corporate letterhead. Tuesday morning arrived gray and drizzling, the kind of weather that made downtown Seattle look like a noir film set. I dressed strategically, charcoal blazer that suggested authority without aggression, crisp white shirt that photographed well in conference room lighting, minimal jewelry that wouldn't distract from my presentation materials. The Williams Associates lobby screamed establishment money, marble floors, original artwork, a reception desk that probably cost more than most people's cars. The receptionist, a polished woman in her 50s, guided me to the 42nd floor executive conference room. William Sr. was waiting with 2 associates, his handshake firm but measuring. Ms. Chen, your reputation precedes you. Ryan wasn't present, which struck me as either strategic absence or calculated insult. Thank you for considering Apex Creative, I replied, settling into the leather chair across from him with the confidence I'd developed through months of difficult client meetings. Our brand needs refreshing, William Sr. began, sliding a thick folder across the mahogany table. 20 years of steady growth, but younger agencies are capturing market share with more innovative approaches. We need to evolve without losing our established credibility. I studied their materials while he spoke, traditional advertising approaches, conservative design choices, messaging that emphasized heritage over innovation. Classic symptoms of a successful company afraid to risk what had worked before. What's driving the client defections? I asked directly. William Sr.'s eyebrow lifted slightly at my bluntness. Clients want fresh thinking. They're gravitating toward agencies that understand digital marketing, social media integration, data-driven strategy development. All areas where Apex Creative has developed expertise, I noted, making strategic eye contact. The next hour revealed the scope of their challenge. Williams Associates had built their reputation on traditional advertising excellence, but clients increasingly demanded integrated campaigns that spanned multiple platforms and demographics. Their team was talented, but set in approaches that had worked for decades. We're prepared to offer a substantial contract for comprehensive rebranding, Williams Sr. concluded. New visual identity, updated messaging strategy, digital platform integration, and a rollout campaign that repositions us as innovative while maintaining our established reputation. The project was exactly what Apex Creative needed to establish ourselves among Seattle's top-tier agencies. It was also exactly what Ryan would interpret as Sophie Chen destroying his family legacy. I'll need to discuss this with Marcus and prepare a detailed proposal, I replied. What's your timeline? 6 weeks for initial concepts, 3 months for full implementation. That evening, I sat in Marcus's office as rain drummed against the windows, discussing strategy over takeout Chinese food and strong coffee. The Williams Associates contract represented our biggest opportunity and our biggest risk. Ryan Williams is going to lose his mind, Marcus observed, twirling lo mein around his chopsticks with practiced efficiency. He already has, according to industry gossip. I'd heard whispers through client networks, Ryan making disparaging comments about my work, questioning my qualifications, suggesting that Apex Creative's success was built on unethical practices. Are you prepared for him to escalate? Marcus asked seriously. I considered the question while studying the city lights below. 6 months ago, the thought of Ryan's anger would have paralyzed me with anxiety. Now it felt like background noise, relevant but not determining. Let him escalate, I said finally. Our work speaks for itself. The escalation began within 48 hours. Sarah from account management forwarded me a screenshot of a Facebook post in a marketing professionals group. Anyone else notice how certain agencies are stealing clients through underhanded tactics? Some people will do anything for success. Hashtag ethics matter. The post was vague enough to avoid libel accusations, but specific enough that industry insiders would recognize the implication. Ryan's profile picture appeared among the likes and supportive comments. Classy, I muttered, forwarding the screenshot to Marcus. His response was immediate. Document everything. Professional response only. The rumor campaign intensified over the following week. Whispered conversations at industry events suggested that my rapid promotion at Apex Creative raised questions about my methods. Anonymous online reviews appeared, criticizing our client service and questioning our business practices. Most damaging was the client wobble. Patricia Hayes called Tuesday morning, her voice tight with concern. Sophie, I received a call yesterday from someone at Williams Associates. They suggested that Apex Creative might not be the best long-term partner for Vitality Wellness. They offered to take over our account at a reduced rate. My grip tightened on the phone. What specifically did they say? They implied that your success with our campaign was overstated, that other agencies could deliver better results with more established approaches. The smart response would have been defensive explanations and reassurance. Instead, I chose strategic offense. Patricia, let me send you our complete performance analytics for your account, plus testimonials from 3 other clients who've achieved similar results. You'll also receive contact information for those clients, so you can verify our claims directly. Within an hour, I'd compiled a comprehensive report documenting not just Vitality's success metrics, but comparative analysis showing how our strategies outperformed industry standards. The testimonials were specific and quantifiable: increased sales, expanded market reach, improved customer engagement. Patricia called back that afternoon. I don't know what Williams Associates was thinking. Your results are documented and verifiable. We're staying with Apex Creative. The client retention felt satisfying, but I knew Ryan wouldn't stop with one failed attempt. The next attack targeted my team directly. Jessica brought me a concerning conversation. 2 of our junior designers had been approached at a networking event with job offers from Williams Associates, offers that included 30% salary increases and immediate senior-level titles. They're trying to poach our talent, Jessica explained, specifically targeting people who work closely with you. I called an emergency team meeting, gathering our junior staff in the conference room with coffee and honest conversation. I know some of you have received external job offers, I began directly. That's flattering recognition of your talents and market value. I want to discuss how we can address your career development needs here at Apex Creative. Instead of defensive pleading, I presented a strategic development. T-plan, performance-based salary reviews, expanded creative responsibilities, professional development budgets, and profit-sharing opportunities tied to client success metrics. We're not just offering jobs, I concluded. We're offering partnership in building something significant. But if opportunities elsewhere better match your goals, I'll personally provide references and support your transition. The response surprised me. Rather than jumping at higher salaries, the team asked thoughtful questions about growth opportunities, creative autonomy, and long-term career development. 3 designers committed immediately to staying. The other 2 asked for time to consider their options. By Friday, both had declined the Williams Associates offers. Why? I asked privately. Because working here feels like building something, one replied. Williams Associates feels like joining something that's already finished growing. The final escalation came through professional networks. Ryan orchestrated a whisper campaign suggesting that my presentation at the upcoming Marketing Innovation Conference was undeserved recognition for someone with limited experience. The conference organizers called Marcus directly, expressing concerns about potential controversy surrounding my keynote slot. "Handle this strategically," Marcus advised. "Your work quality is your best defense." I spent the weekend preparing not just my presentation, but comprehensive documentation of every campaign I'd led, every result I'd achieved, every innovation I'd implemented. The presentation would focus on authentic marketing in the digital age, using the Vitality Wellness case study to demonstrate how strategic authenticity outperformed expensive traditional advertising. Monday morning brought unexpected validation. The conference organizers called with an update. Attendee registration had increased 40% since announcing my presentation topic. Industry professionals were specifically requesting information about my authentic marketing methodologies. "Controversy creates curiosity," the organizer explained. "Whatever criticism you've faced has actually generated more interest in your work." As I prepared for the conference, reviewing my notes and refining my presentation, I realized something had shifted. 6 months ago, Ryan's attacks would have sent me into emotional tailspin. Now they felt like strategic obstacles to navigate rather than personal devastation to endure. The conference was 3 days away. My presentation would either establish my reputation as a serious industry voice or confirm Ryan's narrative about my alleged inadequacy. Either way, I was ready. The email arrived on a gray Thursday morning, sandwiched between client updates and vendor invoices like destiny disguised as routine correspondence. Request for proposal, City of Seattle Financial Empowerment Initiative. The sender was the Mayor's Office of Economic Development, and the project scope made my coffee go cold in my hands. $3 million. A year-long campaign targeting young adults aged 18 to 30, promoting financial literacy and career independence. Billboards, transit advertising, digital platforms, community outreach, the largest public awareness campaign the city had commissioned in 5 years. "This is it," Marcus said when I forwarded him the RFP, his voice carrying the weight of recognition. "This contract would establish us as a major agency, not just a successful small firm." The proposal deadline was 3 weeks away. We'd be competing against Seattle's most established agencies, including Williams Associates. The irony wasn't lost on me that my biggest professional opportunity would pit me directly against Ryan's family business on the most public stage possible. I assembled our pitch team in the main conference room, spreading the RFP documents across the mahogany table like battle plans. Jessica from account management, David from strategy, our senior designer Carlos, and 2 junior creatives who'd proven themselves on complex campaigns. The city wants authentic messaging that resonates with young adults facing economic uncertainty, I explained, highlighting key requirements. This isn't about selling products. It's about promoting genuine financial empowerment and career confidence. David leaned forward, studying the demographic data. The target audience is exactly our sweet spot: young professionals, recent graduates, people starting careers or changing industries. They're overwhelmed by traditional financial advice that assumes disposable income they don't have. "What's the real message here?" Carlos asked, sketching preliminary concepts while we talked. I paused, considering not just the RFP requirements, but the deeper purpose this campaign could serve. It's about helping people recognize their own potential instead of depending on others to define their worth, teaching them to build genuine competence rather than seeking external validation. The words felt personal because they were personal. This campaign would promote exactly the message I'd needed to hear during my relationship with Ryan, that individual worth comes from developed skills and authentic achievements, not from someone else's approval or guidance. Over the following week, our team conducted extensive research. We surveyed 200 young adults about their financial anxieties and career challenges. We interviewed financial counselors, career coaches, and recent graduates about effective empowerment strategies. We analyzed successful campaigns from other cities, identifying what worked and what felt patronizing. The research revealed a clear insight. Young adults weren't lacking motivation or intelligence. They were lacking practical knowledge and confidence in their ability to navigate complex financial and career systems independently. They don't need inspiration, I told the team during our midweek strategy session. They need information and validation that they're capable of learning what they need to know. Our campaign concept crystallized around choose your own success, messaging that emphasized personal agency, practical skills, and achievable goals rather than overwhelming lifestyle changes or unattainable aspirations. The creative strategy focused on real stories from local young adults who'd achieved financial stability through practical steps. A barista who'd started a side business, a recent graduate who'd negotiated her first salary, an artist who'd built sustainable income through multiple revenue streams. For the media placement strategy, I researched optimal locations for reaching our target demographic. Young professionals in Seattle commuted primarily through downtown corridors, used specific transit routes, and congregated in certain neighborhoods. The most effective billboard placements would be along major commuter routes through the business district. As I mapped out the recommended locations, I realized many of these prime spots were directly along routes Ryan would travel daily, from his downtown apartment to the Williams Associates office, past his regular lunch spots and networking venues. The coincidence felt significant, but not in the vindictive way it might have 6 months earlier. These locations weren't chosen to target Ryan specifically. They were chosen because they reached the maximum number of young professionals most efficiently. The pitch preparation consumed 2 weeks of 18-hour days. I coordinated with city officials to understand their priorities, conducted focus groups to test our messaging concepts, and developed comprehensive implementation timelines. Our presentation would need to demonstrate not just creative excellence, but operational expertise and measurable outcomes. This proposal is bulletproof, Marcus said during our final rehearsal, reviewing our 60-page submission document. The research is thorough, the creative is compelling, and the implementation plan is realistic. Pitch day arrived with the kind of pristine October weather that made Seattle look like a postcard. Our team arrived at City Hall an hour early, our presentation materials organized with military precision, our confidence built on weeks of meticulous preparation. The presentation room was formal and intimidating, mahogany panels, official portraits, and a selection committee of 8 city officials who'd evaluate campaigns that could impact thousands of young adults' lives. "Good morning," I began, my voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "Today we're presenting more than a marketing campaign. We're presenting a strategy for empowering the next generation of Seattle's workforce to achieve genuine financial independence." The presentation flowed like a symphony we'd rehearsed to perfection. David presented demographic research and strategic insights. Carlos showcased creative concepts that were both visually compelling and emotionally authentic. Jessica outlined implementation timelines and budget allocation. When my turn came to present the core messaging strategy, I felt the weight of personal experience behind every word. Traditional financial empowerment campaigns often fail because they lecture rather than empower, I explained, displaying our research findings. Young adults don't need to be told they should save money or advance their careers. They need practical tools and validation that they're capable of learning what they need to succeed independently. The selection committee asked probing questions about campaign metrics, community partnerships, and long-term impact measurement. Our team answered with specific data and concrete examples, demonstrating that our proposal was built on research rather than assumptions. "Thank you for your comprehensive presentation," the committee chair said as we concluded. "You'll receive our decision within 1 week." The waiting period felt eternal. I threw myself into current client work, but my mind kept returning to the possibilities this campaign represented, not just for Apex Creative's growth, but for the impact we could have on thousands of young people facing the same challenges I'd once navigated alone. The call came on Thursday afternoon. Congratulations, the committee chair said without preamble. The City of Seattle has selected Apex Creative for the Financial Empowerment Initiative. Your proposal demonstrated exactly the authentic approach we were seeking. The celebration at our office was euphoric but brief. Winning the contract meant beginning 3 months of intensive implementation work. Media placements needed to be secured, creative assets needed to be produced, community partnerships needed to be established. The Choose Your Own Success campaign launched on a Monday morning in November, appearing simultaneously across digital billboards, transit stations, and social media platforms throughout Seattle. The messaging was clean, confident, and empowering. Your success story starts with your choices. The billboards featured real testimonials from local young adults, their faces authentic rather than polished, their stories specific rather than generic. One headline that particularly resonated read, "She said she'd be nothing without him. Now she chooses her own success story." That phrase, borrowed from my own experience but universalized for broader impact, appeared on the digital billboard at 4th and Pike, directly facing the building where Ryan worked. Standing in my office that evening, looking out at the city lights reflecting off Elliott Bay, I realized something fundamental had shifted in my motivation. The campaign's success felt meaningful not because it might prove Ryan wrong, but because it could help other young people avoid the mistakes I'd made. The satisfaction was deeper than vindication. It was the quiet confidence that comes from building something genuinely valuable rather than just winning a competition. Marcus appeared in my doorway, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "To choosing your own success story," he said, echoing our campaign tagline. "To building something that lasts," I replied, accepting the glass and toasting not just our professional achievement, but the personal growth that had made it possible. Outside, the digital billboards cycled through their rotation, carrying messages of empowerment to thousands of young adults throughout the city. The campaign wasn't about my past with Ryan, it was about other people's futures with themselves. The regional marketing conference buzzed with the energy of 500 industry professionals gathered in the Grand Hyatt's ballroom, their conversations blending into a symphony of ambition and expertise. 3 years ago, I'd been too intimidated to attend this event, convinced I didn't belong among Seattle's marketing elite. Now I stood backstage, preparing to deliver the closing keynote address. "5 minutes, Ms. Chen," the event coordinator whispered, adjusting my wireless microphone with practiced efficiency. Through the backstage curtain, I could see the audience settling into their seats, agency owners, creative directors, marketing executives, and emerging professionals whose eager faces reminded me of my former self. The conference program listed my presentation as Authentic Empowerment, Building Campaigns That Create Lasting Change. The title felt appropriate. Over the past year, the Choose Your Own Success campaign had exceeded every success metric the city had established. Financial literacy workshop attendance had increased 300%, young adult career counseling requests had doubled, and most importantly, post-campaign surveys showed measurable improvements in participants' confidence and financial planning behaviors. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sophie Chen, Creative Director and Partner at Apex Creative, the announcer declared. I walked onto the stage with the confidence that comes from earned expertise rather than borrowed authority. The spotlight was warm against my face, the audience's attention focused and receptive. 3 years ago, someone told me I'd be nothing without his guidance. I began, my voice carrying clearly through the ballroom's sound system. Today, I want to talk about what happens when we choose to define success for ourselves rather than accepting others' limitations. The presentation flowed naturally from personal experience to professional insight, illustrating how authentic marketing campaigns succeed because they address real human needs rather than manufactured desires. I shared specific case studies: Vitality Wellness, the City campaign, smaller clients who'd achieved sustainable growth through strategic authenticity. Effective marketing isn't about manipulation, I concluded. It's about connection. When we create campaigns that genuinely serve our audience's needs, success becomes a natural byproduct rather than an artificial goal. The applause was sustained and enthusiastic, but more meaningful were the questions during the QA session, thoughtful inquiries about research methodologies, strategic approaches, and ethical considerations in campaign development. After the presentation, I was surrounded by colleagues offering congratulations and business cards, scheduling follow-up conversations about potential collaborations. The networking felt natural rather than forced, built on mutual professional respect rather than hierarchy or desperation. "Impressive presentation," a familiar voice said behind me. I turned to find Ryan Williams approaching, his expression carefully composed between professional courtesy and personal uncertainty. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my first month's salary at Apex Creative, his confidence projected but not quite natural. "Ryan," I replied with genuine calm, "thank you." "I heard about the city campaign's success," he continued, his tone suggesting reluctant admiration. "The metrics are impressive. Really impressive." I nodded acknowledgement without false modesty. It was a good team effort. The city had clear goals, and we were able to develop strategies that served those objectives effectively. Ryan shifted slightly, his body language revealing discomfort with the formal distance in our interaction. "Sophie, I've been thinking about our previous collaboration. I realize now that I might not have been as supportive as I could have been." The understatement was so massive it was almost amusing, but I felt no urge to correct it. Ryan's realization of his past behavior mattered less than my current clarity about moving forward. "I learned valuable lessons from that experience," I replied honestly, "about the importance of professional boundaries, authentic collaboration, and building skills independently, rather than depending on others' validation." "Maybe we could work together again," Ryan suggested, his voice carrying the calculated charm I once found irresistible. "Williams Associates could use fresh perspective, and you've obviously developed impressive capabilities. We could create something significant together." The proposal hung between us like an echo from another lifetime. 3 years ago, Ryan's professional attention would have felt like validation of my worth. Now it felt like just another business proposition, one with poor strategic value and questionable ethical foundation. "I appreciate the offer," I said with diplomatic professionalism, "but Marcus and I are focused on expanding Apex Creative's current services. We're launching a mentorship program for emerging creatives, and I'm excited about the impact that could have." Ryan's expression shifted through surprise, disappointment, and finally resigned acceptance. "Well, if you ever change your mind—" "I'll keep that in mind," I replied, knowing I wouldn't, but maintaining courteous closure. After Ryan walked away, Marcus appeared at my side, having observed the interaction from a respectful distance. "How do you feel?" he asked simply. I considered the question while watching Ryan disappear into the crowd of conference attendees. "Peaceful," I said finally. It felt like talking to someone from a different phase of my life rather than someone who'd hurt me personally. Marcus nodded understanding. Over the past year, our professional partnership had evolved into something deeper, not the romantic drama of my relationship with Ryan, but the steady foundation of shared values, mutual respect, and complementary strengths. "Ready to head back?" Marcus asked, offering his arm with casual intimacy. "Actually, let's stay for the networking reception. I want to talk with some of the emerging professionals who attended the presentation. The mentorship program could use their perspective." The reception buzzed with post-conference energy, conversations flowing between industry veterans and newcomers eager to learn from experienced professionals. I found myself gravitating toward a group of young creatives discussing the challenges of building agency careers while maintaining artistic integrity. The hardest part is knowing when to trust your instincts versus when to defer to more experienced colleagues, a young woman named Elena was saying. "I don't want to be arrogant, but I also don't want to undervalue my own ideas." Her words resonated with painful familiarity. I remembered feeling that exact uncertainty, that constant second-guessing of my own capabilities. Trust but verify, I suggested, joining their conversation. Develop your instincts through research and testing rather than just hoping they're correct. And remember that experience is valuable, but it's not infallible. Sometimes fresh perspectives see solutions that established approaches miss. The conversation continued for an hour, covering topics from client relationship management to creative development processes to negotiating professional advancement. These emerging professionals faced the same challenges I'd navigated, but they were approaching them with strategic thinking rather than emotional dependence. Would you be interested in participating in a mentorship program? I asked Elena as the reception wound down. We're launching an initiative at Apex Creative to support emerging talent with structured guidance and professional development opportunities. Her face lit up with genuine enthusiasm. Absolutely. That sounds exactly like what I've been looking for. Driving home through Seattle's evening traffic, Marcus and I discussed the mentorship program's potential structure. We envisioned monthly workshops, one-on-one guidance sessions, and collaborative projects that would give emerging creatives real experience while supporting their professional development. It feels like the natural evolution of what we've built, Marcus observed, navigating the downtown traffic with practiced ease. It feels like purpose, I replied, watching the city lights reflect off Elliott Bay's dark water. The following Monday, I sat in my office reviewing applications for the mentorship program. The response had been overwhelming. 47 applications from emerging creatives throughout the Pacific Northwest, each telling stories of ambition, uncertainty, and determination. One application stopped me completely. The candidate's portfolio showed genuine talent, but her personal statement revealed a story that mirrored my own experience. With devastating accuracy, a controlling boyfriend who'd systematically undermined her confidence while appropriating her creative work. I know I have potential, she'd written, but I've lost confidence in my ability to recognize good opportunities versus situations where I'll be taken advantage of again. I need guidance from someone who understands what it's like to rebuild professional identity after having it deliberately destroyed. I stared at her words, remembering my own desperation 3 years earlier, my own uncertainty about my capabilities and worth. The young woman's name was Jennifer Martinez, and her portfolio showed the same raw talent I'd once possessed before learning to channel it strategically. I picked up my phone and dialed her number. Jennifer, this is Sophie Chen from Apex Creative. I'd like to schedule an interview for our mentorship program. Can you come in Thursday afternoon? Really? Her voice carried the same mixture of hope and disbelief I remembered from my own early opportunities. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for this chance. Jennifer, I said before ending the call, bring your portfolio, but more importantly, bring your questions about building a career on your own terms. That's what we're here to help you figure out. After hanging up, I turned to look out my office window at the Seattle skyline. The digital billboard at 4th and Pike was cycling through its afternoon rotation, displaying messages about financial empowerment and career independence to thousands of commuters. One headline caught my attention. She said she'd be nothing without him. Now she chooses her own success story. The message felt complete now, not because it proved Ryan wrong, but because it had helped other people write their own stories of independence and growth. The billboard wasn't about settling old scores. It was about preventing future ones. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Partnership papers are ready for your review. Ready to make this official? I smiled, typing my response. Ready to build something that lasts. Outside, Seattle's afternoon traffic flowed past our building, carrying people toward their own definitions of success and satisfaction. The mentorship program applications sat on my desk, representing dozens of young professionals ready to learn that their worth came from their own competence rather than others' approval. I opened Jennifer Martinez's application again, already planning how to help her avoid the mistakes I'd made and accelerate toward the success she deserved. The story that had begun with someone else's limitations on my potential was ending with my expansion of others' possibilities. That felt like the truest victory of all. Ready to write your own success story? Subscribe for more empowering manhwa breakdowns that show you exactly how the underestimated always win in the end. Drop a comment sharing your biggest "they said I couldn't" moment. Let's celebrate proving the doubters wrong together.